The National Desk, America's News Now. Now the desperate search for two young children after a family is swept away in severe weather.
These people did not drive into high water. They were caught. This was a flash flood.
Then the world reacts as Russia pulls from a vital grain deal supplying food across the globe.
I hope that every country is watching this very closely. They will see that Russia is responsible for denying food to people who are desperately needed.
And no help needed. UPS union leaders ask President Biden to stay on the sidelines as a devastating strike edges closer. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Eugene Ramirez. The smoke from Canadian wildfires is back. Millions of Americans are under air quality alerts right now. Almost 900 fires are burning in Canada, and most of that smoke coming from the west. It's impacting a section of the U.S. from Idaho to Maine, down the East Coast all the way to Florida, as you can see on the map here. The conditions could continue tomorrow, but forecasters predict they won't reach the same hazardous levels that we saw in early June. Now, officials say to limit outdoor activities and wear masks depending on the air quality in your specific area. Parts of California also facing some poor air quality today as hundreds of firefighters battle several fires there. Yosemite National Park reaching a hazardous air quality index above 300 earlier today. It's since come down a bit. The Pica fire there has been burning for weeks after it started from a lightning strike. And a nearly 8,000-acre fire southeast of Los Angeles, the Rabbit Fire, is 35% contained now. That and other nearby brush fires causing nearly 1,000 homes to be evacuated over the weekend. Right now, a massive search continues for two missing children in Pennsylvania after their mother died in floodwaters over the weekend, along with 4 other people in the area. The family was visiting from Charleston, South Carolina, and got stuck in a flash flood Saturday evening while driving. The father, his 4-year-old son, and a grandmother survived, while a 2-year-old daughter and a 9-month-old son were swept away along with their mother. Search teams have tripled their resources, including drones, dogs, and other assets. Flight cancellations and delays continue today after storms hit many parts of the East Coast over the weekend. More than 5,200 U.S. flights have been delayed, over 360 canceled. Some of the hardest hit airports are in Miami, Boston, Atlanta, Dallas, and Charlotte. And the brutal heat wave continues right now in the south and southwest, as well as over South Florida. More than 100 million Americans are under heat alerts today. The Southwest faces extremely dangerous temperatures this week and next, with heat index readings above 105 degrees. Multiple records have already been broken. People in White Marsh Township, Pennsylvania, started returning to their homes this afternoon after a train derailment earlier this morning. A 40-car freight train carrying toxic materials operating on tracks owned by Norfolk Southern crashed just before 5 a.m. today, causing the evacuation of those nearby homes. Now, with no leaks or spills reported, officials said it was safe for people to return to those homes. And developing now, law enforcement authorities in Portland, Oregon, have now said that there's a connection between at least 4 of the 6 women found dead over the past 6 months in wooded areas just outside of the city. At least one person of interest has been identified, but no one has been formally charged, and officials say there's no active threat to the community at this time. Right now, the search is on for Scott Arthur O'Brien in the state of West Virginia. O'Brien, you see him here, is wanted in connection to the shooting of a state trooper this morning. He allegedly fired one shot after a routine traffic stop, hitting that trooper in the elbow. She is expected to recover. And the FBI searching for a serial bank robber. This is in Houston, Texas. They're calling him the Sticky Note Bandit. They say a man dressed as a woman has been handing bank tellers threatening sticky notes demanding cash. He's attempted to rob 3 banks so far this month, and surveillance video here shows him leaving twice with an unknown amount of money. So far, no one has been hurt in any of these robberies. In North Carolina, a stabbing suspect is in custody after an hour-and-a-half highway chase on I-85. At least 4 people were stabbed in separate attacks today in Oxford, North Carolina. As of right now, still no motive known. Over to Capitol Hill now with this question. To what extent should top intelligence agencies be allowed to gather information about American citizens? Well, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, is supposed to only be used to gather information about non-U.S. citizens. But critics on Capitol Hill say it's been abused time and time again. Now, some are threatening not to reauthorize part of those powers set to expire in just a few months. The National Desk's Christine Frizzell reports.
For years, both Democrats and Republicans have been making the case something needs to change.
How many American communications are collected under Section 702? The government cannot and will not say.
204,000 times the FBI improperly searched the 702 database.
Section 702 of FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, was enacted back in 2008 as a temporary tool to combat terrorism.
The bottom line is that Section 702 gives us the intelligence that's necessary for us to stay one step ahead of our adversaries.
Top officials laying out some of our country's greatest threats: the Chinese government's efforts to spy and steal sensitive technologies, North Korea's nuclear program, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But critics in Congress say those national security threats are being used as a shield to violate privacy rights of Americans. New outrage following the release of this report, stating the Defense Intelligence Agency provides funding to another agency that purchases commercially available geolocation metadata aggregated from smartphones.
This is just an extremely important issue for the American people to understand how their data is being used. That is location data, that is biometric information, it's medical and mental health information.
FBI Director Chris Wray insisted the practice is no longer occurring, but privacy experts warn the information already collected is still searchable.
This includes searches for Black Lives Matter protesters, individuals associated with January 6th. So wherever you are on the political spectrum, the extent to which this authority has morphed into a domestic surveillance tool should deeply trouble you.
Section 702 of FISA is set to expire at the end of this year, so the debate will carry on. Now, critics worry despite these threats, lawmakers will pass it once again, but hope significant reforms are made to prevent it from being abused. On Capitol Hill, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Iowa's law banning abortions at 6 weeks is on hold again, meaning the procedure is again allowed up to 20 weeks of pregnancy. Within the last couple hours, a Polk County judge blocking that new legislation that was signed by Governor Kim Reynolds Friday, which includes exceptions for rape and incest or if the mother's life is in danger. A Democratic watchdog group wants a U.S. House committee to rescind an invite to Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from a scheduled hearing. They accuse Kennedy of made anti-Semitic comments, saying COVID-19 could possibly be ethnically targeted, claiming Jewish people of European descent and Chinese people are more immune. Well, Kennedy later pushed back on Twitter, saying his words were misunderstood. Mississippi is beginning the process of allowing religious exceptions for state-mandated vaccinations for children. And this comes after a judge ordered Mississippi to join most other states in allowing religious exceptions. That was back in April. Right now, there are only 6 states without the exceptions, and the ruling came after a lawsuit from parents who said their religious beliefs led them to keep their unvaccinated children out of school in Mississippi. Today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken calling out Republican Senator Rand Paul for putting dozens of State Department nominees on hold while he seeks information from the administration on the origins of COVID-19.
No one is questioning the qualifications of these career diplomats. They're being blocked for leverage on other unrelated issues. It's irresponsible, and it's doing harm to our national security.
Blinken says the agency currently has 61 nominees outstanding with the Senate, and 38 of them are ambassadors awaiting confirmation for posts all around the world. He says for the first time this summer, the U.S. will not have ambassadors to Egypt, Israel, Jordan, or Lebanon. And this is in addition to a hold on military nominees by Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville over the DOD's abortion policy. Today, the FDA giving approval for the first long-acting drug to fight RSV in toddlers and babies. That drug, Beyfortus by AstraZeneca, is an injection for children up to 2 years of age, and it's designed to fend off severe reactions to the virus. Roughly 60,000 kids 5 and under are hospitalized with RSV each year. CDC advisors will meet next month to decide who should receive the drug. A second Alzheimer's drug is seeking FDA approval. A study published today shows the drug donanemab, made by Eli Lilly, can slow deterioration by 4 to 7 months. The study did raise some concerns, notably that between 20 and 25% of patients in the study showed evidence of brain swelling or microbleeding. Another Alzheimer medication, Leqembi, achieved FDA approval earlier this month. Coming up here on the National Desk, new data shows how much money Americans have now compared to a few years ago. Then the surprising results of a study comparing ChatGPT to college students. And later, what's behind alarming emergency room wait times in Maryland? We'll tell you when we're back in 90 seconds. Jury selection began today in the Manhattan Supreme Court case that will decide if the Trump Organization is responsible for the cost of all the lawyers involved in the years-long probe into the former president's business dealings. Convicted felon and former Trump attorney Michael Cohen claims the company violated a 2017 deal to cover his attorney's bills, leaving him with $1.3 million in unpaid fees. But the Trump Organization says Cohen's crimes violated their agreement. Now, the former president is not expected to testify in the trial. His oldest son, however, Donald Trump Jr., is. Cohen claims Trump Jr. decided which organization employees had their legal fees paid by the company. Now, the jury selection is expected to last several days. Keeping an eye on your money, according to new checking and savings account data from J.P. Morgan Chase, Americans have nearly 10 to 15% more money in their accounts now than they did in 2019. However, households are spending the extra cash they saved up during the pandemic. Americans' bank accounts are now at their lowest levels since 2020 at $9,000, dropping as much as 41% from their April 2021 peak. The UPS union president has asked the White House not to intervene if 340,000 unionized workers strike. There are still 2 weeks left for both sides to attempt to reach a deal. The White House stepped in when railroad union workers threatened to strike last year, averting a supply chain catastrophe, you'll remember. But UPS said they plan to have management employees deliver packages if there is a strike. Another possible strike we're watching, the Association of Professional Flight Attendants authorizing their American airline workers to approve a work stoppage. The negotiations have been stalled since 2019. In this instance, though, a strike is unlikely because federal law mandates federal mediations, which are ongoing, and they must fail before the union can walk off the job. Meantime, a pilot strike has been averted for some airlines. United Airlines and their union pilots reached a $10 billion deal over the weekend. This comes after Delta Airlines pilots ratified a contract for 34% raises over 4 years. American Airlines and its pilots union reached a deal with 40% raises over 4 years. Southwest Airlines and its pilots union, though, have not come to an agreement. Russia claims Ukraine killed 2 people in the most recent attack on the Kerch Bridge in Crimea. It remains standing, though traffic is backed up for miles there. Crimea houses some key Russian military bases used by invading forces in Ukraine. White House officials say they do not know who's responsible, but National Security Council Strategic Coordinator John Kirby told MSNBC today that Ukraine has a right to hit targets inside Crimea.
To be clear, Andrea, Crimea is Ukraine. It belongs to Ukraine. It doesn't belong to Russia. They have no business being there in the first place. And Ukraine has every right to pick the targets it wants to pick to defend itself and to try to.
Global wheat prices jumped today after Russia announced they're suspending its participation in a crucial deal that allowed the export of Ukrainian grain. National correspondent Atra Elnashar reports on the reaction and what it means for global food supplies.
Destabilization of the world's food trade has been a cruel consequence of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, it's poised to get much worse. Russia says it will not continue with the Black Sea Grain Initiative, something the U.S. calls a life-saving deal brokered by Turkey that allowed millions of tons of grain, corn, and other food products to leave Ukraine's ports. Ukraine's foreign minister weighing in on the fallout Monday morning.
Prices for grain all across the globe will go up.
Delivering this message to Russia.
Stop playing Hunger Games with the people around the world.
Food prices in the U.S., affected by a slew of supply chain challenges and extreme weather, are up 4.7% from last year, according to Labor Department data. The United Nations credits the Black Sea Initiative for an 11.6% decline in global food prices since the deal was brokered.
It's also been a lifeline for Ukrainian farmers in what's known as Europe's breadbasket. But Russia claimed it was an impediment for its own exports, something UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says he tried to address directly with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Guterres now forewarning of the impact of Russia's withdrawal from the deal.
Hundreds of millions of people face hunger, and consumers are confronting a global cost of living crisis, and they will pay the price.
But he says Russia's decision won't stop the UN's efforts to facilitate unimpeded access of Ukrainian and Russian products to global markets. Though Russia may be less motivated than ever to cooperate, its economy has been able to survive Western sanctions through bolstered trade with China and India. While fighting on the front lines is intensifying during Ukraine's counteroffensive, its soldiers now armed with a controversial package of cluster munitions from the United States. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Senator Elizabeth Warren wants the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, to investigate Tesla over possible conflicts of interest and misappropriation of corporate assets. She sent a letter today to the SEC chair claiming Tesla's board is not independent from Elon Musk. The agency's Office of Public Affairs has not yet commented. A new study finds that AI tool ChatGPT can match the top 1% of human thinkers. University of Montana researchers used the Torrance test of creative thinking, comparing scores from ChatGPT and real human students. Well, the chatbot's responses were as creative as those from the most creative test takers and outperformed most students. The lawsuits over a 2019 deadly boat crash involving the Murdaugh family have been settled. Police say they believe Paul Murdaugh crashed a boat the night 19-year-old Mallory Beach died. Before Paul was murdered in 2021, he was facing a trial in connection to the crash. The boat owner was Alex Murdaugh, convicted of killing his wife Margaret and son Paul. Elton John and his husband David Furnish testified today as defense witnesses in the sexual assault trial against Kevin Spacey. One person claims he was assaulted by Spacey while driving to an annual ball hosted by John and Furnish in 2004 or 2005. But Elton John and David Furnish said they didn't remember Spacey attending that event after 2001. Every day, America faces threats from foreign food and plants carried into our country by passengers flying in from abroad. To guard against this often hidden invasion, U.S. Customs and Border Protection turns to an unlikely breed of dogs to sniff out trouble before it takes root here in the U.S. Tonight, Spotlight on America's Dwayne Pullman goes behind the scenes to reveal the unsung heroes of the Beagle Brigade.
What's your passport? Inside Terminal 5 at O'Hare International Airport, thousands of passengers from around the world arrive. Greeting them,
good girl,
is a fast-moving beagle.
Oh, she's incredibly fast.
Named Betty.
Betty Boop. Good girl.
Specialist Jessica Anderson and Betty are a top team in a one-breed canine program run by U.S. Customs and Border Protection, or CBP.
The Beagle Brigade started back in the 80s.
Beagle Brigade.
Beagle Brigade, that's what they originally called it.
They still do. 117 beagles make up their brigade, assigned to airports across America, guarding against invasive species, pests, and pathogens, sometimes carried by passengers in foods and plants they bring with them from overseas.
How important are beagles to what we're doing to protect America?
I think they're incredibly important. Let's go. Good job.
Behind the scenes, big dogs like Cece.
What? That one?
Command the conveyor belts. But out here,
find it.
In close proximity to people, beagles like Betty rule.
Cute, cuddly, and welcoming.
And that's the purpose, isn't it?
Definitely.
But the furry, friendly faces of beagles like Betty hide a serious mission.
That's a full-fledged canine officer.
That's correct.
Right now, Betty and the brigade are focused on two serious threats to America. Avian influenza has already killed 43 million hens worldwide. That's what caused egg prices to skyrocket in January. Anything connected to chickens and other birds not cleared through customs is being confiscated, including exotic birds' nests used to make bird's nest soup, a Chinese delicacy that's full of bird saliva. The other threat, African swine fever. It's already wiped out nearly a quarter of the world's pig population. Every day, some international passengers try to bring pork products into the U.S., including sausage.
Could you get that sausage out for me, please?
Betty sniffed out several sausages when we were there, including a sausage link packed inside luggage.
Can we get that out for me?
And Betty signaled sausage inside this duty-free bag.
You can't get it from duty-free at the airport. Yeah, it's not permitted.
The beagles are trained to sniff out pork, other meats, and fruit, but they constantly find more exotic foods, too.
And this looks like cow skin.
It is. Also confiscated, this entire leg of a wild animal with hoof still attached. And CBP still doesn't know what this meat is.
Whenever we see bones like that, that's a good indicator that it's not allowed.
Every year, tens of thousands of threats are snagged by CBP's canines, including a brigade of beagles, like Betty.
Oh, I love her.
That protect America's front lines.
You did good now.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Dwayne Pullman.
Next on the National Desk, people in Maryland facing alarming ER wait times. The main reason why, after this. The National Desk taking the pulse of America, and we start with alarming emergency room wait times in Maryland.
According to recent health data, Maryland's emergency room wait times average close to 4 hours. That is the longest wait time in the entire country. And take a look. This is the University of Maryland Capital Region Medical Center here in Largo, a new hospital. Well, it has been at bed capacity since day one, since it opened in 2021. Leaders here in Prince George's County call it a crisis.
Some of it has to do with how people are treated in the emergency room, but it all starts with the long wait. If you're waiting 10 hours, you feel that your family member or yourself is going through an emergency, and then some people have left. I have even a colleague on the council that left the emergency room because she felt that it was too long.
While staffing shortages contribute to the problem, health advocates say mismanagement of resources and equipment are also to blame.
The bus performed exactly as the bus was supposed to perform.
18 school districts in West Virginia participated in the pilot project. The purpose of the project was to see how the buses performed in the state's mountainous terrain and weather conditions. While the pilot program showed Green Power a slight weakness in the buses when it comes to charging infrastructure, in Boone County, the bus proved to save money, only costing $200 a month. Barry Miller is a bus driver in Calhoun County. He got to participate in the pilot program, and although he was skeptical at first, in the end, he gave the bus an A+.
It just changed my mind. It's just amazing how well that bus runs in Calhoun County.
My name's Droplet.
Droplet is still in the tree, and the tree is still standing.
We learned that this majestic tree that you can see here, which has a dozen trunks the size of your average cedar tree, was slated to be cut by a developer Friday morning. And so some friends and I set up this hammock and our supplies and made it clear that we were not going to allow that to happen.
Droplet is ready to wait it out in the red cedar on a plot of land slated for development.
I brought a ton of food up here to eat, but I haven't had to use any of it because everyone's coming by and saying, do you want a sandwich? Can I give you some fruit? Can I give you a drink? Just an outpouring of support.
Coming up on the National Desk, you might want to get those tickets now. The massive jackpot up for grabs tonight. Next in 90 seconds. Right now, that Powerball jackpot is still growing, and it reached $900 million for tonight's drawing, the third largest in history. The approximate cash payout would be more than $465 million. This, of course, after nobody won Saturday night's drawing of $875 million. Good luck if you're playing out there. That's going to be all for us right now, but don't forget to join me tonight for the evening edition of the National Desk. You want to check your local listings for the exact time. I'm Eugene Ramirez. Thanks for watching. See you soon.